That's right.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Just two changes. I just provided the background motion that was from council respecting 8.1, and Marty and I can talk to that later in the meeting for more clarification. And then we also have the Municipal Heritage Committee Report 14006, which is added as a discussion item as well.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda as amended? Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Pearson, all those in favor? Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 20th, 2014 as presented, please? Councillor Pearson, Councillor Partridge, all those in favor? Thank you. I need to have a motion to approve the delegation request for the June the 17th meeting. This is 4.1. Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Pasuta, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. 5.1, let's go through consent items one at a time. The Hamilton Historical Board minutes from April the 15th, 2014. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Ferguson, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Amendments to the telecommunication tower and antenna protocol. I've got Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, I don't know who to direct this question to. But here's my issues. Looks like the federal government's now said the municipalities provide input on cell tower locations. Does that mean we can say no to you, to right staff person?
Mr. Thorne, would you like to tackle your very first question?
I would, by asking if this is Scott. By asking if Scott will reply to that.
All right, so your first direction. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning.
Just for clarity, I've been asked by the media if we could introduce ourselves and our title for those that are listening or those that are watching from home.
Okay, my name's Scott Blvd. I'm Coordinator of Business Facilitation.
Perfect, thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair. The federal government doesn't permit us to restrict the location, but we can, through the protocol, control a little more on what's happening and provide some input into the location. And
so we've been advised in the past, we actually had the federal government come in and speak to us about this, that they control it. They're exempt from municipal zoning. And these things were a hot topic and still are. I got one that's proposed for Redeemer College and University College, and I'm getting tons of emails of neighbors opposed to this thing because of the perceived health risk. And I know Dr. Richardson has spoke to us about this. I'd just as soon stay right out of the damn thing. If we're going to sit there and provide comments but can't say no, why are we engaging? Because then the residents are all going to come to us, blame us, and it could be because we call a public meeting to provide information to them, but we can't do anything about it. So is this just a way of because I direct all those inquiries to my MP. And this is going to be a convenient way for them to just send it right back to us, even though we have no power. Am I correct in my interpretation?
Mr. Baldry?
Through you, Madam Chair. What the city does is we have a protocol that will request certain things to be done for these towers. So we recommend a certain type of tower to be located. We can have the recommendations, and then it's up to the federal government if they're going to implement those. So we advise the provider on what we'd like to see. Okay. And then in most cases they work with us rather than against us.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson.
But we have no power. And I'm glad you raised that issue about providing advice to them. One thing we asked for, and I insisted on it because they're just plain ugly, is lattice towers. You're now saying they can do them. Why are we backing up on that? What you said in the document is that monopole towers are the preferred type of. No, they're the only type. We don't want lattice towers back in here. So why are you changing council's direction that we provided through our original resolution? I believe it was back in August 2009.
Mr. Baldry?
Through you, Madam Chair. This is the existing protocol that's in there. The only changes that we're doing is adding to the protocol a tower that was previously excluded from our control. Previously, the federal government restricted or had an exemption in their regulations that any tower under 15 meters in height would be exempt from any municipal regulations or consultation. At this point, they've lifted that and allowed municipalities, if they wish, to control towers that are under 15 meters. All we're doing is adding that and increasing the time frame for public consultation, which has also been increased from 21 to 30 days. So that's the only proposed recommendations from the report. It is one that we always ask for, is that it's always a single pole, but there are different circumstances way out in the middle of the nowhere where the other type of pole may be more prudent.
Councillor Ferguson.
Okay, but this is flying in the face of council direction. On February the 17th, we passed a resolution. I know it's against staff recommendation that all new towers should be monopoles and not lattice towers with multiple antenna, which was added by the planning staff. Now you're saying in the new bylaw on page 3 of 11 that monopoles are the preferred tower. That's not council's direction during this term of council, and I'm puzzled why you're flying in the face of council's direction on that. And then we also asked to have these towers 400 meters from residential areas and schools. Now you flip that back again to 120 meters on item 3 on page 3. Madam Chairman, I'm really uncomfortable with this. The federal government has found a convenient way to let us take the heat for it, but we have no power. Because they say, well, the municipality must consult with you. What good is that if we can't say no? And so I have trouble with that. I have trouble with even permitting lattice towers. I don't think Councillor Pasuta wants them up in North Flamborough. I sure don't want them in rural Lancaster. They have the way to camouflage these things, and I thought we did it quite well at the Morgan Firestone Arena, where they came in and made it look like a flagpole, and we put a big flag up on top. It camouflages it. Now they're going to, these lattice towers are these three-legged things that are just ugly. And I don't want anything to do with them in Lancaster. So I don't know whether we should refer this back to deal with this setback from schools, to deal with lattice towers. And I tell you, if we're going to call public meetings and have consultation, and we'll take heat, but we can't say no. I don't want that responsibility, because if you don't have the power, why have the public consultation? So I'll wait to see what my other council colleagues, and then I'll refer it back. Thanks.
And I'll come back to you, Councillor Ferguson, at the end. Councillor Pearson and then Councillor Partridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and certainly I hear what Councillor Ferguson's concerns are, and we'll support whatever goes back, but I am pleased to see that we do have involvement for the towers below 15 meters. Or less, because what technically can happen, and I've been very fortunate with 2 that I have in my ward now, potentially a 3rd one coming in. I've been able to work with the applicants, and they've been very cooperative in working and doing things that I have requested them to do to make them, more appropriate in the neighborhoods where they are. But we have to remember too that under 15 meters, they can also go for an extension, and maybe I can, through you, Madam Chair, ask Mr. Blvd to clarify. They can request an extension later on for, I think it's another 10 meters above the 15, so I think they can go a maximum of 25 meters. Through you to Mr. Blvd, please.
Mr. Blvd?
I'm not sure at this point whether that's correct or not. I'd have to go through the report and find out exactly where it is.
I'd appreciate that being found, but that is the case, because I had one where they went the first height requirement, and then they have the right to extend it. So being sure we get them in appropriately in from the ground up for the 15 meters initially will make a huge difference, but it's also something we need to know going forward, because it's federal regulation. They can add another 10 meters to it.
Thank you. Councillor Partridge, then Councillor Clark.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and I agree with my council colleagues. I think if for no other reason, there's discrepancies within this report as to what we have passed previously that need to be answered, and I'm not hearing any answers to that today, so I'm wondering if we should table it, refer it back. Councillor Ferguson wants to do that, or I'll do that. But I'm troubled to see that it's 120 meters instead of the 400. And, the cell towers that I've had in Ward 15 are flagpole style, and they work quite well. But I'm also very concerned about having, large public meetings if we get people who are objecting to it and we can't resolve it. We have no power. We have absolutely no authority to deny the location. And I think that's sending a mixed message to our residents, which we're going to ultimately end up wearing. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, and then I'm going to...
Good morning. With respect to the 120 meters to 400 meters from the residential schools, so can you just clarify exactly if we pass this, what would the policy be for the city?
Through you, Madam Chair, we're not recommending any changes to the circulation requirements. The only recommendation is to add the height, to add the new tower to our protocol. The council wishes me to look back into it to see what happened with the changes and why they were or were not implemented. I can do that and come back with a report.
So the radial, radial separation from residences. There a change to that?
Through you, Madam Chair, there's no recommended changes through my protocol.
Councillor Clark?
Okay, I think my preference would be to table it and then we can have further discussions on it, because the way I'm reading it, and I don't want to get into it all this morning, I'm not so sure that that's exactly what's happening.
Thank you.
It could be misinterpreted by the government.
And I had myself down actually in Councillor Pasuta, so Councillor Partridge, if you don't mind,
go ahead.
the chair. Scott, I read this that at one point the federal government could approve a 50-foot tower and then just add to it afterwards with no consultation. My understanding when I read this was that they can't add height or width without another approval process, right? Scott?
Through you, Madam. That's correct.
Okay, so that's one change that I've read that's pretty instrumental. It's pretty key to the... Okay, thank you. So I'll take the chair back. Thank you. Councillor Pasuta?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and somewhat in the same lines as Councillor Ferguson. I have towers coming up. They're lattice type with guide wires on them, but they're way in excess of 15 meters. And I do get the calls from the residents, from the farm people out there, and saying, did you know about this? How come we had no input? We didn't get a letter of, intent to do something. And it was the same thing. I thought it was monoframe, and we do have a situation over on Highway 8, and I won't name the property, but he had started putting in a telecommunications tower with another company working on it, and it was a lattice, and it was built, and then when he went to go and put it up, he was told he couldn't do it, had to be the monoframe type. So I'm kind of confused about what's going on down here, and I agree, we should defer it, send it back, and get some more communications between ourselves back and forth and figure out what's going on here.
Okay. So Councillor Ferguson, I'm going to go back to you with tabling and possibly direction for staff.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we refer this back to staff to come back to us with a clear document that says lattice towers are prohibited. Number two, both the radial separation from residential and sensitive areas like schools. Number three is clearly defined to us that if we are a commenting agency, what authority do we have? And so I'd like to get my head around those three things in a very clear statement. So I move that.
Okay, so we're going to refer it back. Number one, lattice towers not preferred. Separation between residents and schools be back to the 400 meters. And we need a clear understanding as to what our jurisdiction is over the whole process.
Yeah, if we're doing
what our role is.
What authority do we have?
Okay, and we've got all that. Vanessa? Sorry, it was already seconded by Councillor Partridge and Scott. Are you clear on all that right now going forward? Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Carried.
Carried, thank you. Vanessa, you had your hand up? Okay, thank you. So 5.3, request to designate 103 Kenilworth Avenue, North Hamilton. This is the Kenilworth Library under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act in Ward 4. May I have a motion to approve 5.3, please? Councillor Pearson, Councillor Clark, all those in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Ferguson.
I know we don't have to get the owner's permission, but is the owner aware of this and is he okay with it?
I just asked staff to come down and... Good morning.
Good morning.
Name and title, please.
Alyssa Golden, Cultural Heritage Planner with the Planning Department.
Alyssa?
Through the chair. So this is Kenilworth Library. Currently, the Kenilworth branch of the Hamilton Public Library operates out of the building. Okay. And it's owned by the city. So
I guess the city agrees if it's here.
Well, this is, so just to clarify, through the chair, this is actually a report addressing the request that came from council. It was a motion at, I believe, GIC and originally, and then went to council for staff direction to first add it to the register, so it's currently on the register as a non-designated property. And this is essentially a preliminary screening report. It's been found that the property does meet the criteria, Ontario Regulation 906. So it's being recommended to be added to our work program to do further cultural heritage assessment work for designation, and it's been added as a low priority for 2019 on our work program.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Okay, Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I sit on the library board, and the committee, the board is definitely aware of this. And works have been done. That facility was actually all upgraded several years ago, and they've maintained the heritage features. So there's no issue with the library as far as concerns going forward. They have every intent on maintaining what's there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark.
Can I just get an update in terms of what's in the hopper for heritage assessments on properties? Do we know how many properties are sitting there waiting to actually have formal assessment completed?
Alyssa Golden.
Through the chair, Appendix F of the report, you'll see what's being recommended in terms of the new addition to our current work program, and I believe it totals 27 now, moving into 2019 with approximately 4 properties per year on the work program.
Councillor Clark.
I'm sorry, how many per year?
4 properties.
4 properties, and you're expecting 2019 to complete that list? Is that my understanding?
That's correct. There are, 2013 is still showing on the program list, on the work program list. There are a number of properties that are still in some phase of assessment and still need to be clarified, but that does include 2013 to 2019 for the total work program.
Councillor Clark.
Can I ask Mr. Robichaud a question, Madam Chair?
Yes,
sir. With respect to the recent process of the designations and the designations stopping demolitions and all of that, when do we have an intention to review our policies with regards to how we proceed with designations, whether or not it's in a manner like this where a full report comes in, or we're designating, I would say, quickly and on the fly to deal with other issues, perhaps, as opposed to the priority one, which is the heritage preservation.
Mr. Robichaud? I don't know if you were here earlier. I'm asking everyone to announce their name and their position, please, for those listening and watching from home.
Steve Robichaud, Director of Planning. Through you, Madam Chairman, there is a council-approved designation process in terms of when a request for designation comes in, whether it be from a property owner or a third party. Then we go through the screening process and a decision is made whether or not it should proceed with that designation process. So we're not in the short-term planning to review the current council-approved designation process. What we are looking at as a staff is the administration of those properties that are either currently on the registry or that are designated, and how we deal with those through the permit subcommittee and or the notice of intent to demolish any property that's on the registry. For your information, several years ago there was a significant backlog of properties that we were trying to evaluate for the designation, and council approved capital funding so that we could retain external consultants in order to move forward with dealing with those properties on the list. But at this point in time, we're satisfied that the process we have in place is the proper process for dealing with moving properties forward to that designation.
Okay, so the process that we have in place is the proper process, but we haven't been necessarily following that process in the last few designations. We've been intervening to stop a demolition permit, or we've been intervening for any number of reasons, as opposed to it following through a normal, coming up through the Heritage Committee recommendation. We do an assessment, we put it on the list, we do the assessment, then we designate.
Through you, Madam Chairman, that would be a correct characterization of what happened with those two. They did not go through the normal process. The one that was done earlier this year, staff had been working on those properties for many years, and it was sort of moving forward through a separate process. But the most recent designation did not follow the normal process. Staff had been directed to start the screening report, but before that screening report had been completed, council moved to designate the property.
And so would it be worth our while to look at the process again to ensure that we've got policies in place so that we're in a defensible position as opposed to modifying on the fly?
through you, Madam Chairman, staff are always willing to do the sort of continuous improvement review of our processes, so we can do a review of those processes to see if we need to make any changes. Like I said, we're looking now at looking at many elements of our processes and for the balance of this year and moving into 2015. So as part of that, we can look at our current designation process and make a determination if we need to make any amendments or revisions to that process.
Councillor Clark?
Madam Chairman, the reason I'm asking the questions is that I'm getting pretty nervous about a process that we should be following and we're not for whatever reason, and where a developer has made decisions in terms of how they're proceeding with their property, and then they get hit with a designation to stop them from moving forward on that property. And at some point we need to be clear what a demolition permit actually does, what a building permit does. If they have these documents, then how can the city come in the 11th and a half hour and designate a property? And I'm not dealing with specific ones, but I'm looking at the trend. I'm seeing a number of designations that are concerning me in terms of whether or not our intention was to preserve the heritage or our intention was to do something else. And Mr. Robichaud, and see if we can draft some type of resolution to have that area reviewed and tightened to make sure that everyone is aware and that our intent has to be clear. It's preservation of heritage, and it can't be used as a tool when people just start objecting to a development in the community. And that's my concern. We have 7,000 properties, as I understand, sitting there, over 7,000 properties, looking at potential heritage designation, and we're not following our process if in midstream we stop investors from moving forward on their project by designating it as heritage. So that's my concern. It sends an interesting and not necessarily positive message to the investment community. So if you don't mind, off stream, I'll meet with them and see if we can draft some type of resolution.
So just to be clear, we're on 5.3. Are we approving 5.3 first? And then we'll go back to you for direction as to who you want to meet with and about the direction.
If you wish.
Thank you. So I need a motion to approve 5.3. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Pasuta, all those in favor. Thank you. Councillor Clark, coming back to you.
Yeah, I just would like to have direction that the staff be able to meet with myself and any other councillors on this committee and legal to look at our heritage designation policies and make sure that the policies in place are covering off the latitude that is now coming up when we're in GIC meetings or council.
Thank you. And is that all right for just direction, or would you like a motion, Mr. Robichaud?
Through you, Madam Chairman, that's fine.
Okay.
Sufficient direction to staff.
And you're satisfied with that, Councillor Clark? Thank you. Now we're moving on to 5.4, Heritage Permit Application under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Acts for the demolition of an existing garage and erection of a new garage at 6 Victoria Street in Dundas, Ward 13. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Pearson, Councillor Partridge, all those in favor? Carried. Now we're on to 5.5. This is the Heritage Permit Application under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act for the another demolition of an existing garage, removal of the metal shed and erection of fencing at 4 Griffin Street in Waterdown, Ward 15. Councillor Partridge.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and I would be very pleased to move this. There's certainly no objections to it. We don't have anyone here, and it'd be greatly an improvement to a beautiful street that is full of heritage homes. So I'll be pleased to move it if I can get a seconder.
Councillor Partridge, Councillor Farr, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. 5.6, we have amendments to bylaw number 05012, designating 320 King Street East, Hamilton under the Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act in Ward 2. Ward 2, Councillor Farr. Move it. Councillor Farr, Councillor Pearson, all those in favor. Thank you. So now we're on to 5.7. This is the monetary penalty system for parking infractions, and this is Councillor Farr, please.
Just through you to Marty Hazel, the front man in municipal law enforcement, and or Ted Arnold. Marty? Okay. So we're continually getting cut back in the court system. This is your way of addressing it with the AMP or AMP process, and basically this information report is just suggesting that you're going to continue in that vein, and by 2015 we'll have a system in place that if it's $100 or less, a ticket that someone wishes to protest will not only have a more satisfactory process in terms of timelines to get some resolve, but also free up the court time, the provincial court time, which has been the problem in the first place. Through you, Chair.
Mr. Hazel?
Marty Hazel, Senior Director, Parking and Bylaw Services.
Thank you.
Through Madam Chair, yes, that is correct. We are, unless you tell us otherwise, we'll be doing this work to set up a system. We will be coming back to Committee and Council for approval once we get all the paperwork done, though, so it is not a done deal yet. We still have to come back to you for final approval.
Councillor Farr?
One final question, just through you to the Senior Director of Municipal Law Enforcement, Marty Hazel. Have we lost out with all these delays that we've seen of the last of it? I mean, is there potential revenue gains to be had by proceeding with the AMP process through you?
Well, through Madam Chair, if there's delays to the courts, that means we don't collect the money faster when somebody's found guilty. So there's delays in putting the money in the bank and collecting interest. To date, we haven't seen a problem, but it's only going to get worse because we're cut down to a day a month. So we expect that there will be a problem at some point.
Councillor Farr.
And conversely, Madam Chair, for those who want to protest their ticket, there's a more efficient means in the near future due to this good work. Thank you.
Thank you. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Farr, Councillor Ferguson. All those in favor? Yeah, I need a shaker. Okay, we're on to public hearings and delegations. Application for approval for draft plan of condominium conversion for lands located at 12 Proctor Blvd in Hamilton in Ward 3. Before I start, I need to read this off. Members of the public, in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, please be advised that if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the City of Hamilton before Council approves the draft plan of the condominium, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Council of the City of Hamilton to the Ontario Municipal Board, and that person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Municipal Board unless, in the opinion of the Board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. Is the applicant here today? Thank you. Are there anyone here from the public to speak to this item? Is there anyone here from the public wishing to speak to this item? And last call, anyone here from the public wishing to speak to this item? May I have a motion, please, to close the public meeting? Councillor Pearson, Councillor Pasuta, all those in favor? Thank you. We've got Ward 3. Councillor Pearson. Can you put your mic, please?
Sorry, at the appropriate time, we can waive the presentation, and I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. So I have a motion to waive the staff presentation. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Partridge, all those in favor? Thank you. The applicant is here. Are you in favor of the staff report in front of us today? And I'm hearing a verbal yes. So I have the recommendation in front of you of 6.1 for condominium. And what is the wish of this committee? Councillor Pearson.
I'll move it, Madam Chair.
Councillor Pearson, Councillor Ferguson, all those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, now we're on to 6.2. This is the application for amendments to the Urban Hamilton Official Plan, the City of Hamilton Zoning Bylaw 6593, and the draft plan of the subdivision known as Fontana Gardens Phase 3 Hamilton in Ward 8. Members of the public, in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, please be advised that if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the City of Hamilton before Council approves the official plan amendments and the draft plan of the subdivision, a person or public body may not be entitled to appeal, is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Council of the City of Hamilton to the Ontario Municipal Board, and the person and public body may not be added to as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Municipal Board unless, in the opinion of the Board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. Are there any members of the public here to speak to this application? Are there anyone here from the public wishing to speak to the application? And last time, are there anyone here from the public to speak to this application? Seeing none, I'd like to close off the public meeting, please. I need a motion. Councillor Pasuta, Councillor Clark, all those in favor? Thank you. Is the applicant here? Thank you. And what is the wish of this committee? What is the wish of the committee?
I'll
Do
waive
you want to hear the staff presentation, or do you want to waive it?
If there's no one here, I'll waive the presentation and move the recommendation.
Okay, so Councillor Pearson, are you, before I do that, the applicant, are you satisfied with the staff report? Thank you. So I've got it moved by Councillor Ferguson. Sorry, sir?
I just wondered, do you want a motion to close the public meeting, or doing that
I think
next?
we did that, did we not?
We did vote.
Yes. We can do it again.
We did do that, or did
Yes,
not?
we did. In fact, I think you seconded it, but that's
Okay,
good.
we didn't vote.
Councillor Pasuta, Councillor Ferguson, all those in favor?
Carried.
Thank you. Listening ears. Okay, so we've got move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. All those in favor? Thank you. That 6.3 is finished. Oh, 6.2. Now we're on to 6.3. Application for the amendment of the City of Hamilton zoning bylaws 05-200 for the lands located at 620 South Service Road in Stony Creek in Ward 10. Members of the public, in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, please be advised that if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the City of Hamilton before Council approves the zoning bylaw amendment, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the City of Hamilton to the Ontario Municipal Board, and the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of the appeal before the Ontario Municipal Board unless, in the opinion of the Board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. Are there anyone here to speak to the public? Is there anyone here from the public wishing to speak to this application? And last time, is there anyone here from the public wishing to speak to this application? Seeing none, may I have a motion, please, to close the public hearing? Councillor Pearson, Councillor Councillor Ferguson, all those in favor? Carried. Are the applicants here today? Thank you. So, Councillor Pearson.
Madam Chair, yes, I would move to waive the presentation on this and also move the approval of this report, this application. And just for my colleagues' information, this is an expansion with regards to parking for the Gateway Ice facility in Stony Creek that everybody has read. And pleased to see that momentum will be moving forward to potentially a fourth pad going in. So there's 3 ice surfaces now, and this will allow the opportunity to move forward with the fourth pad in the future. So I'm really pleased. We have Marie Mazes, the solicitor for the applicants here, Mr. Trombetta, Mr. Falaska, and Mr. DeFilippis with regards to this property. So I'm really pleased, and it's great moving forward in Stony Creek with our sports facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think it's seconded by Councillor Clark. Any speakers to this?
Well, I think you were asking a good question. It sounds like the applicant's okay with it. I'd just like to see them nod their head, yes.
Oh, can you nod your head? Whoa, I'll ask the question. As the applicants, are you satisfied with the staff report that's before us today?
Yes, and let me say...
Okay, you want to come down to the microphone, please, sir? Well, we'll have one here for you. Yeah. Just think, it's more billable hours.
Okay, all we're trying to do is expand the parking.
Before you begin, can you please introduce yourself?
Murray Mazza, lawyer for the applicant.
Thank you.
We're trying to expand the parking because the rink has been doing phenomenal business, and we get tournaments on the weekend and we just don't have enough parking. So we're very pleased that you're approving this application. Secondly, let me mention Joe Muto and his staff, thank you. Maria Pearson and his staff. When you make these applications and you get cooperation from the staff, it makes things go so much easier. Thank you very much again.
Thank you for your words. And Mr. Muto, I hope you heard that as well. And Mr. Thorne, I think Mr. Muto's looking for a pay raise. Thank you. Councillor Pearson, moved by Councillor Pearson, seconded by Councillor Clark. All those in favor? Thank you. Now we're on to 8.1. Before we begin, I am going to ask Mr. Marty Hazel to speak to this application, and I know Vanessa's dying to jump into. Mr. Hazel, good morning again.
Thank you. So, Madam Chair, this item is rather confusing. The report before you was approved by the AF&A Committee and Council. Part of the direction was for staff to also come up with a work plan to identify and cost out the technology improvements and staffing resources to meet the auditor's recommendations. The AF&A Committee had on their outstanding business list the required work plan adjustments. AF&A decided to refer that to Planning Committee and take it off of their outstanding business list. So all we really want to do through this item is to add the work plan changes to the Planning Committee's outstanding business list.
Okay, so this is a formality to take it from the outstanding business list of AF&A and put it onto the Planning's outstanding business list, correct?
That is correct.
And
I'll ask Vanessa just to confirm that is the process. Yeah.
And the timeline, sir?
So, Madam Chair, we have a report coming to the Open for Business Subcommittee on a departmental review of our Amanda system. Part of that project will identify the improvements we need to make to Amanda in the licensing area to meet the auditor's report. So, within the next year, I believe.
Within the next year? So say a year from today would be reasonable? Okay, thank you. So Councillor Clark, with those clarity?
So I'm fine with the clarity, but the resolution doesn't say that. So what's the resolution going to be that we're going to be actually voting on? Because this would give you another FTE. Not that you don't want it, I'm sure, but...
So through Madam Chair, this report before you has already been approved by Council. We transferred one FTE from Parking Control.
I understand that. Yeah. This has been approved, but the recommendation in the top is the same as we've already approved. Yeah. So that means it's another FTE.
Thank you. Vanessa, I think let's just jump in here for a minute.
Just because at Council on the 14th, they added this matter be referred to Planning Committee. So we aren't actually approving any recommendations. This is just going to be on your radar, and it's a formality because it was referred to the Planning Committee, not the outstanding business list or staff. So this is why it's on the agenda. We aren't approving any recommendations. We're simply just putting this be added to the outstanding business list.
And that's my point. The resolution is exactly the same as AF&A passed and Council passed. So the resolution here should be that you be directed to develop a work plan for that one FTE. But we don't reaffirm what's on this page. If this page gets passed by here and goes to Council, then now you have 2 FTEs.
Well, that would be my error then. I'm sorry for the confusion.
No, I'm
no,
not
that's
worried
good.
about
We
the
just want to get this out.
I don't want them to have 2 FTEs.
Okay, so Councillor Clark, would you like to make that amendment and make that motion right now?
We would...
The only motion that we need is just to place this on the outstanding business list, that since this was previously approved, and then there's direction that this come back to Planning Committee instead of AF&A. That's the only motion. I think that what Councillor Clark, if I'm hearing correctly, would like to add to that direction so that it's very clear when it comes back here what the scoop is, rather than it come back here and then we send it back to get the same direction Councillor Clark's trying to achieve today.
So the amendment would be deleting A and B because we do not repeat something that we've already done in another council meeting. And we would indicate in A that pursuant to the council decision to hire the FTE and that budget, that Mr. Hazel be directed to develop the work plan and report back to this committee. Mr. Hazel.
Correct. So, Madam Chair, yes, that is correct. If you look at page 2 under the historical B, that is the item that Council has already referred to.
Right.
The acting GM of Planning at Condo will be directed to instruct the appropriate staff to investigate and detail the cost of staff resources, etc. So that is what we really need to put on the outstanding business list, if that helps.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Clark.
Just to be clear, everyone knows we're not repeating what we've already done. It's just the work plan that we need. And that's why my amendment is...
Okay, thank you. Councillor Partridge is seconding that. And Marty, you're shaking your head yes. You got clear direction. All those in favor? Carried. Now I need, I believe, a motion to put this on the outstanding business list. How does this work so it ends up on that outstanding business list for Marty to have it on his radar?
Just a simple motion.
Just move?
I just did it once we put a report back.
I'm just making sure we've done this. I've had too many things come back to me later saying we forgot this. Are we okay with this going forward now? We're done with 8.1. Vanessa, I'm looking to you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. 8.2, the Municipal Heritage Committee report. This is May the 22nd or 29th. Councillor Farr.
I would like to thank all of the members of the Municipal Heritage Committee who, in short order, got together the morning after our emergency, I guess, for lack of a better term, council resolution with respect to 1 St. James Place and the intent to designate motion that was passed at council, but Part C of that motion specified that it be vetted through the Municipal Heritage Committee. They dropped everything they were doing. Some were very, very busy folks and made quorum +1, some around this table. It's much appreciated. And I also will note that I heard loud and clear what the previous speaker had said just moments ago here in Planning Committee about addressing the issue and trying to prevent for the future these kinds of scenarios where we're coming up sort of helter-skelter last minute trying to present these intent to designate motions and find a better way in which to address the issue better for all parties concerned. Certainly I can tell you the Durant Neighbourhood Association would agree with that and other councillor colleagues that I've talked to, so I quite look forward to those conversations and appreciate that direction as heard earlier today by a previous speaker. Other than that, I guess I would move to receive. Oh, would I also move the recommendation 1?
Number 1.
I'll move that.
8.2, number 1, moved by Councillor Farr, Councillor Partridge. All those in favor? Carried. 8.2 as a whole, Councillor Farr, Councillor Pearson. Hello? Carried. Thank you. You're not getting away with anything this morning. I got lots of time on my hands. 9.1, Councillor Farr, would you please introduce your motion?
Yes, this was the one that we put off last planning meeting to answer 2 questions. This is the motion with respect to the North Hamilton Community Health Centre. I won't go through the whereases, but that the North Hamilton Community Health Centre located at 428 Houston Street is hereby deemed to be a charitable not-for-profit use, and that the Director of Planning be directed and authorized to exempt the North Hamilton Community Health Centre from the parkland dedication requirements in accordance with the City of Hamilton Parkland Dedication Bylaw. Offline, speaking with Councillor Ferguson, we should also add between the words requirements and in requirements for the purpose of the erection of a greenhouse for a horticultural therapy. I'll make that amendment in just a moment, but the 2 questions that came, good questions from committee, is who runs the joint and are they a non-for-profit charitable organization? And through you, if I may, to be expeditious in this particular agenda item, I'll go through you to Mike, and maybe on both those questions, based on what we've worked on in the last 2 weeks to answer them, if you could assist our committee members here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
I'll also note I have copies of all the information and records that I'll just sort of have the clerk hand out for the committee members.
Who operates it, and is it charitable non-profit organization, please?
Through you, Madam Chair. The organization is created by letters patent, so it has the same status as a corporate entity. The difference is that it's because it's registered through letters patent with its disposition clauses indicating that it operates on a not-for-profit basis. It functions differently than a corporation, and that corporation is supported by shareholders. A not-for-profit organization is supported by members or membership. We have confirmed that the letters patent are still in good standing with the Ministry of Consumer and Commercial Relations, so the entity still exists as a registered corporate entity. It does indicate in its letters patent that it's intended to operate without the purpose of gain, so that it's a not-for-profit organization. We have determined through the Revenue Canada that it still has its status as a registered charitable organization is still in good standing. And the subject lands are owned or registered in the name of the entity North Hamilton Community Health Centre.
Thank you very much, Mike. Councillor Farr, sorry.
Oh, I'm fine. I think Councillor Ferguson.
Okay, thank you, because those were my questions as well. Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Oh, wait a minute. Somebody, was it you? Because we thought it was Councillor Clark. Councillor Clark's first, please. Sorry. Then Councillor Ferguson.
Councillor Farr was first.
He's already finished.
Sorry, Councillor Ferguson.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
First of all, it's nice to see the Board of Directors. I know a lot of them. They're very responsible people. A lot of them are physicians, and a bunch of them live in Ancaster, so that's how I know them. But my question through you, Madam Chairman, to Mike. Mike, well, the board of directors may run it. How does it get funded? Who owns the building? Who owns the property? Is it Ministry of Health?
No, the property is registered in name of this organization, North Hamilton Community. North Hamilton Community, because it's registered through letters patent, it's its own separate independent organization. It may receive funding from the Ministry of Health, but that would be irrelevant to its status as law as a separate entity. It's as independent an entity as, to draw a bit of analogy, as the city of Hamilton as a municipal corporation.
So we don't know who the principal funders are. Well, I'm just curious why
we did not conduct that type of investigation on the funding source. They would have an obligation to sustain themselves financially based on their own efforts, which could include soliciting financial support from the province or from other organizations, but we didn't conduct that level of or that type of investigation. But I suppose a call to the Secretary of the Board may assist in that respect.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
Hey, Madam Chairman, Councillor Farr is going to be presenting an memo, and once we do that, I fully support the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clark.
Thank you. I appreciate Councillor Farr getting the additional information, and I appreciate Mike's clarification. The concerns that were raised, rightfully so, was when the motion originally came forward, we needed to have the information to understand whether or not it was a for-profit organization or not. And they can, as a not-for-profit, because I worked in that industry for some time, not-for-profits can own property. They have all the powers that a normal corporation does, except they don't make profit. And any surplus that occurs in an annual basis goes back into the programming for that community. So I'm comfortable with what's here, and I thank Councillor Farr for getting the information for us.
Thank you. Councillor Partridge, if you could take the chair, please. One of my concerns of the original motion was that we were deeming a organization as charitable, and we're using the same wording here. So as a friendly amendment, can we put down determined, or can we put down confirmed instead of deemed? Because it sounds like we have honored them with this. No, I understand that, but if you read the wording, it's been deemed by the city, by council. Could we put
through the chair, please? Through the chair.
Yeah, determined or confirmed. That's all I'm asking, is that that's put in there, because that was my wording that I had the problems with before. Okay, thank you, and I'll take back the chair. There's your friendly amendment. Councillor Farr, moved by yourself.
Okay, on that, and in addition to that amendment, in the last sentence between the words requirements and in accordance, so I would add, thanks to the helpful suggestion by the Ancaster councillor, requirements for the erection of a greenhouse for horticultural therapy purposes in accordance with the City of Hamilton. So it's specific to the use of the greenhouse, and that it's only for the greenhouse, this dedication. And then the confirmed friendly amendment or amendment as well.
Thank you. So moved by yourself, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. All those in favor?
Carried.
On the amendments?
Carried.
Carried as amended.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ferguson.
As amended.
As amended.
Carried. Thank you.
And thank you to my colleagues and staff.
Thank you. Are there any notices of motion before us today? Of course, Councillor Farr.
This one's easy, I think.
You said that the last 7 times.
Through you, Chair. Well, actually, I'll just very briefly. I have a number of establishments, there's been a few, that are, of course, World Cup's coming up June 12th. Runs about a month, well, over a month, to July 13th. We have a major celebration ourselves down on the bay, but we have a number of restaurants and sports bars that are very interested in utilizing their patio space for their patrons, get a little bit more space, and with the great weather, have an opportunity to throw some TVs out there. Not excessive in sound, but an opportunity for some extra seating to watch this once every 4-year world-class football event. And so I'm hopeful that I'm able to appeal to the good nature of this Planning and Economic Development Committee by moving waiving the rules and moving a motion that speaks to, during the World Cup soccer festivities, we, the City of Hamilton, ask staff to use discretion in enforcing the sections of the zoning bylaw which prohibit the operation of TVs on outdoor patios. So we actually have a bylaw that prevents putting TVs out and any form of entertainment outside on patios in this city. Understandable, and that bylaw is all-encompassing. It includes live music and bands and speakers emanating music and all of that, and I get it. But for this particular purpose, I'm wondering if we could ask staff through a notice of motion where I would waive the rules as a motion to use their discretion, simply, not change the bylaw, in enforcing this as it relates specifically to TVs on Hamilton patios.
So TVs only
for
on
World
Hamilton
Cup
patios.
Soccer events for the next month.
And you're right now, it's a notice of motion.
Right.
We're just going to ask staff for some clarity,
Sure,
and then I have somebody who wants to speak to it, but I don't know. This is where the fine line. Can we speak to notices of motions? Are you asking to waive?
First asked to waive the rules. Seconded by Councillor Whitehead.
Oh, good morning. Yeah, he's on the docket now. So, waive the rules, please, folks. Waive the rules. All those opposed? All right, so you got an on there? All right, thank you. So now we have it in front of us. I don't have anything in front of me, but anyway.
And I've spoken to it, so
okay, so this is to allow TVs at the discretion of the bylaw. So Mr. Hazel, before we go to Mr. Clark or Councillor Clark, have any outstanding concerns about this right now?
So, Madam Chair, this is something that we would normally enforce on a complaint basis. Right. I did some quick research and found out that during the last World Cup, we did not receive any complaints at all. I think the only complaints that we would get is if there's live or amplified music that disturbs nearby residents. That's the only time we would get complaints.
So no complaints so far because there was no TVs at that time? Thank you, Councillor Clark.
Well, first, I don't know whether or not there were any televisions out in the patios last time because there were no complaints.
Right.
And our staff already have the authority to do what the good councillor is asking. I do have concerns about the council passing something indicating that they can put televisions out there, and because what's going to happen is you'll have the sound system with the televisions that will be out there, and we will end up creating a problem that doesn't exist now. So I have in my ward numerous bars that are right up against residential areas that it would be a problem. I can see it right now. So I'm a little bit concerned that we're opening up Pandora's box when it's already closed and we don't need to open it up. It's on a complaint basis. There's nothing stopping them from putting a television out on the patio or whatever the case is. They have sound systems in the patios now. So I'm just worried about that. It's fine the way it is, in my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The cities, when it comes to unique events, whether it's the Olympics, World Cup, FIFA, have always made and entertained one-off amendments or exemptions under bylaws to accommodate those major events in cities right across the country. And you see it and read it in the paper, extended bar hours, for example, for the Olympics. In Toronto, they extended bar hours beyond the current bylaw to allow alcohol to be served in the wee hours in the morning. So it's not unique when you have significant events like this to look at what we currently have in place and whether we are prepared to make an exemption under the bylaw. So I would only suggest that it's not unique. I like Councillor Clark's approach that that if it's complaint, I mean, they can take the risk, put it in. If they're causing too much, because I do have a bars right next to residential as well, but it is causing too much noise. That, you know, at the end of the day, then the complaint prevails. But I think we would hope see a little more perhaps latitude during this period of time. For me, I've always believed that if you get one complaint on an issue such as this, then, you know, is that substantiate an issue, or is it a member having actually a tenant issue, and it's about quality of life, and one complaint in the courts isn't determined as affecting one's quality of life. You had two complaints and then you had an issue. So I think it's discretion. I'm not going to dictate the operational piece to the bylaw. You know how to utilize those tools better than than anyone. So I certainly support the concept of showing latitude this time. Whether it's an exemption or not, I think that's something we need further dialogue on. Thank you.
Councillor Partridge.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to Marty. Marty, in your opinion, do we need to move a motion, or is the current bylaw, the way it's set up and the practices that we follow, enough?
So through Madam Chair, the zoning bylaws right now prohibit amplified music, outdoor entertainment. So that's very clear.
Right.
We do enforce it on a complaint basis. I would assume that recognizing there are special events, our staff would normally use their own discretion. So if there was a TV there and we got a complaint and it wasn't really bothering anyone, it was just confined to that, we would enforce. But if there was amplified sound and it was disturbing residents, then we would take enforcement action. So I think we would normally, under special events like this, use our discretion. I think Councillor Farr's motion is really reaffirming what we would normally do.
Yeah, thank you. And so, my sense is I'm hesitant to pass a separate motion on this if the current system works. And, certainly my experience is that staff have good judgment when it comes to any complaints, seeing that we didn't have any before. I'm hesitant to move a separate motion if indeed it's not really necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I've exhausted speakers list. Councillor Farr, you have a motion in front of us today, and it's seconded by Councillor Whitehead. All those in favor? Okay, I have Councillor Whitehead, Councillor Pearson, Councillor Farr. All those opposed? So I have Councillor Ferguson. Are you voting?
I missed the debate because I was talking to the deputy chief, so I'm going to...
I can reiterate.
It's about putting TVs out on stands for the soccer thing. How long does it last, the soccer?
A month. About
12th through July.
It's a month.
Yes. And we heard through staff that they already do that, so...
Right. Personally, I would prefer to get up to the notice of motion so I can get my head around it, but...
Well,
if I don't understand it, I guess I have to oppose it.
Okay, so it's got all those opposed. So it has been defeated. So Councillor Farr, sorry? Just raise your hand. I'm sorry, raise your hands again. Councillor Clark, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Pasuta, Councillor Partridge. I'm opposed. So it's been defeated. Councillor Farr? Any other notices of motion? Anybody else? I'm sorry. Do you have anything else for us today? Will you wait for the next one? Oh, he's gonna save them up. Are you talking to me? Okay. May I have a motion? General information. This is where we go to our esteemed leader, General Manager. So, Mr. Thorne, do you have anything you'd like to share with us today before we wrap things up?
I would just like to share one thing, and that's that I'm looking forward to meeting some of the councillors over the next couple of weeks. My offices have been organizing with your offices some tours out in some of the wards and some meetings to understand some of the issues happening in the wards, so I'll be looking forward to those over the next 2 weeks or so.
Thank you, and we just want to let you know our meetings are always this quick. Outstanding business. Okay, may I have a motion, please, to amend the outstanding business list as follows, and there are a few changes from the agenda copy. 11.1, item F, City of Hamilton revised sidewalk policy. The proposed date went from June the 3rd to August the 12th. May I have a motion for that, please? Councillor Partridge, Councillor Pearson, all those in favor? Carried. Item P, City Initiative to amend the Hamilton zoning bylaw number 6593 for properties located at 118 to 338 Mountain Brow Boulevard. It's gone from June 3rd to September 16th. Councillor Whitehead, I believe this is your ward. Thank you. Councillor Whitehead, Councillor Pearson, all those in favor? Thank you. And these are to be removed. Item SS is not being removed. It has been added, and this is to plan to address the performance audit report on licensed business, and I believe the date was a year today, so we're going to say June 2015. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Farr, Councillor Ferguson, all those in favor? Thank you. Item B is an application that's no longer active. It can be removed. This is Woodland Manor, and it's to be removed completely from the outstanding business list. Councillor Pasuta, Councillor Farr, all those in favor? Thank you. You have before us an in-camera meeting. Does the committee wish to move into camera to discuss this item, or is it the committee in agreement with the recommendations? Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, as the ward councillor, I've been working on this with legal staff for months, and I'm satisfied with it.
Okay.
So I'm prepared to move it in public session right now that we accept the recommendation.
Seconded.
Okay, thank you very much. So if we are in agreement, okay, I only got if we're not in agreement. So Vanessa, I'm looking to your...
We'll simply just have it that the recommendations remain confidential until council approval.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Councillor Ferguson, you're going to move that?
It'll go public once council approves it. Yeah.
Councillor Ferguson is prepared to move that, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Prepared to move that, Madam Chairman.
Sorry?
I'm prepared to move that.
I'm prepared to second it.
Oh, goody. All those in favor? Thank you. And I don't see any other... Okay, you show up late and then what?
I never identify when you show late, but I'll start doing that if you wish.
Thank you.
Now, can I ask, it's under general information, do we have exemptions for development charges anywhere other than downtown? And do we consider nonprofit organizations that are taking over a school in an infill situation a consideration for development charges?
I think, Mr. Sergi, we're going to pick on you for this one, if you don't mind. Introduce yourself.
Madam Chair, Tony Sergi, Senior Director, Growth Management.
Thank you.
As it relates to DC exemptions or partial exemptions, we've had a phase-in period on industrial lands. There's been no exemptions as it relates to commercials. And there has been some cases, and I think they've been one-off through approvals on certain applications. I can't remember exactly what type of applications they were. I believe some of them might have been the charity housing program that was completed in the lower part of the city. I would have to go back and check with finance exactly where the exemptions were applied, but direction was received from this committee and council to support it.
Madam Chair, the reason I'm asking is Rigel Homes has put a purchase to offer. I believe they have the ownership of St. Catherine Siena School. So you're talking about a school that's already utilizing, or in fact probably had heavier use in regards to growth-related issues. That's what development charges are designated for. They would not be needing any more services. Quite frankly, would probably underutilize the services in the area relative to the program. And yet there's $361,000 of development charges being asked. I'm trying to understand the logic. Okay, let's do that.
So, I'm sorry?
I would ask staff to bring a report on...
Thank you. Mr. Sergi, you're clear on that direction?
Through Madam Chair, I'll coordinate with finance because they're the leaders as it relates to the exemptions. Yes.
And maybe with the councillor that's in concern.
Thank you.
Thank you. So seeing no other business on hand, may I have a motion to adjourn, please? Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Pasuta, all those in favor. Thank you, everyone.